Welcome back, everybody. We are live now talking about the NLCS, so it is Nationals versus Cardinals. So first things first, I want to get to the pitching rotation, the pitching matchup. So game 1 will be Anibal Sanchez versus Miles Michaelis. Game 2, it has been announced, it will be Max Scherzer versus Adam Wainwright. In game 3, Jack Flaherty will start, so will Dakota Hudson, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be Strasburg and then Patrick Corbin. And the reason being, so Anibal Sanchez pitched on Sunday, so he's on regular rest. Same thing with Scherzer, he pitched on Monday, so regular rest. Strasburg Wednesday, regular rest. And Corbin, he started a game 8 days ago against the Dodgers in game 1, but he came in and out of the bullpen. He pitched in game 3 and game 5, so basically he was used every 3 days. So he'll get about, game 4 will be on Tuesday, so he'll get about 6 days to rest. Should be fairly normal, maybe tonight. No, he's not coming out of the bullpen again, but I thought about it. Probably not. So those will be the starting pitching rotation. So on paper, who has the better starting pitching rotation? Well, so Sanchez and Michaelis this year, Anibal, Scherzer, Wainwright. As good as Wainwright has been at times for the Cardinals this year, it's not the same pitcher. Scherzer is great against Atlanta. It's Scherzer. Flaherty, Strasburg. That's a coin flip. Sure, Flaherty was the best pitcher in baseball in the second half. You can make that argument for sure of how remarkably low his ERA is. That could be the classic pitcher's duel type game. That could be the type of game where it's an historic pitcher's duel. No, it's not going to be Morris Smoltz where they pitch 9 and 10 innings or whatever it was. But maybe that's a game where it's dominated by starting pitching. And then Hudson Corbin, sure, you give the edge to Patrick Corbin. I think he's better capable of pitching a really good game, like a dominant start, say 10 strikeout like start, 7 inning type thing than Dakota Hudson. But again, seeing Corbin this year in the playoffs, you might give it to Hudson. So it's going to be close. It's going to be close. So again, I feel like it's very important for the Cardinals to win game 1, since they do not. Sure, they have Flaherty in game 3, yet they have to face Scherzer and Strasburg very likely back-to-back. And one remarkable thing is both teams faced 2-1 deficits in the NLDS. And the Cardinals both had big 5-game wins. The Cardinals won 13-1. It was over in the first inning. They jumped off for 10 runs in the first inning. And the Nationals, on the other hand, were down 3-0. And we talked at length about this yesterday. I basically told everybody what happened in the game. I mean, you can go back and watch it. It's on YouTube right now. Right? I talked about at length what happened, right? It's a deficit in game 5. Soto Rendon hit back-to-back home runs. And then Kendrick grand slam. Boom. That's the series. And of course, they both almost lost. Yes, they did both almost lose that series. So if you think about it, the Cardinals, that Braves series I talked a lot about earlier this week, how that series was really a series of twisted turns, how really everything just went back and forth, kind of down to the wire type deal. Well, this year, so think about the Cardinals that come back in game 1. And then in game 4, they're 4 outs away from elimination. Yadier Molina barely hits the ball over Freddie Freeman's head. And Yadi hits a sac fly in extra innings. So they win that series. Right? For the Nationals, they're down 2-1. They relied on Scherzer to get it done. So we talked about kind of each series. Who's the biggest reason why the Cardinals won this series? If you want to say in order, the Astros, Garrett Cole, the Yankees. I can't point to any one player. I'm going to say the offense. I'm going to give it to the whole team. Really is a team effort. I don't think there's any one guy we could give it to. For the Cardinals, I want to give it to 2 guys. Why they beat the Braves, Ozuna and Goldschmidt. They were constantly hitting the first game. I think Ozuna had 2 hits in each of the first 4 games. They hit home runs. Ozuna hit 2 in game 4. I think they're the single biggest reason. And again, as a team effort, but I think those were the guys you could point out to the most if you wanted to say, oh, you're the series MVP. In the Dodgers series, you could say multiple people. Who was the biggest factor in why they beat the Dodgers, the Nationals? Scherzer, you can say that for sure. Strasburg, yes. Maybe Juan Soto, give him a lot of credit too. Give some credit to Anthony Rendon, how huge he came up. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give it to Strasburg. He won 2 games in that series. Now, granted, he didn't get an official win in the box score, but the team won both of the games he started when they're on the verge of potentially being down 0-2 against the heavily favored Dodgers team, or keeping them in the game when it could have gotten out of hand. So I'm going to say Strasburg's my series MVP. And on the other side of things, so that's what I'm going to say. They're two. So one thing about the bullpens of that series is the Cardinals, they used the bullpen a fair amount. They used it in Game 1. And then Carlos Martinez was shaky Game 1. They almost blew a 7-3 lead. In Game 3, Martinez blew the save. And in Game 4, it very nearly cost them again. Sure, since yes, they got into bases loaded jams, and the Braves just couldn't contribute. They got out of them. And Carlos Martinez had a very shaky series as their closer. So I think there are definitely concerns about their bullpen, for sure. The Nationals bullpen, on the other hand, and this was just announced. I mean, if I would have chose to record earlier in the day, this wouldn't have come out. But Daniel Hudson's on the paternity list, so he will not pitch, I think, the first couple games of the series. So he was their closer for them. So now he's off the So now he's temporarily, I think, off the roster. So now all of a sudden, you don't have him. So is it Sean Doolittle? I mean, what do you go with? So Anibal Sanchez, he's not going to finish the game. There is 0 chance of that. 0. 5 or 6 innings. So what do you do tonight? Who do you go with? Maybe try Doolittle. I don't think you want to mess with a starter. You're not gonna use Scherzer, I don't think. Sure, he pitched 4 days ago. Maybe give him an inning. But yes, he is scheduled to pitch. No, he's pitching. No, I'm sorry. Why didn't I think of this? He's pitching tomorrow. No way in the world. Strasburg just pitched. Maybe you do try that Corbin thing, give him 1 inning, but I don't trust that. So you know what you have to do as a bullpen? You have to figure out how to trust somebody. Since the Red Sox, there's questions about their bullpen, huge questions about their bullpen going into the playoffs last year. So maybe you trust someone like a Tanner Rainey who managed to pitch when it was still 3-1. Maybe you trust someone like that. Maybe you have to trust a Wander Suero who has been on the roster. Or maybe even Fernando Rodney, who only pitched when the game was not, when the Dodgers were really in complete control of the game. So again, I think in this series, since it's a longer series, I think you have to try to put more trust into the bullpen. And granted, it let them down in Game 1. It got the game out of hand. They put the game even further out of hand. Granted, it's not all Corbin. The rest of the bullpen really struggled too in that Game 3. So you have to be dependent on the bullpens. Or, matter of fact, do you ask Scherzer and Strasburg to potentially, and even Corbin for that matter, go 7, 8, heck, even 9 innings. Finish it off, if necessary. Do you ask them to do that potentially? So again, I think there's pressure maybe potentially on starting pitching and the bullpen. Without Daniel Hudson, without basically your closer in the regular, down the stretch in the regular season. So both teams' bullpen, in terms of offense, the Nationals' offense, like when they went on that magical run, at times it was about as good as any offense in baseball. It was really that good. I mean, think about it. Turner, Can, and he had some big hits in the NLDS. At least some. Now he didn't contribute like the way Rendon did, but Trey Turner's basically capable of. We've seen over the years can basically get a single and turn that into a run by stealing a base or two. Rendon, Soto, middle of the lineup. Even Howie Kendrick, hitting that grand slam. Maybe that jump starts the playoffs for him. Maybe he kind of has a Daniel Murphy-like performance. And I'm not saying he's getting a home run in 8 straight games, but what I am saying is he can get hot. We know what he is capable in the regular season. So many things like that. The Nationals offense, when it's at its best, can be about as good as anyone in the National League and maybe even in baseball. So I think the Nationals have a slight offensive advantage. I think they do. Starting pitching edge goes to the Nationals. But again, who is the better team? Again, they played each other right around May 1st. You could say as the Cardinals, they're the better team. They played each other about 3 weeks ago, second to last week of the season. And both of them, there's questions of whether they make it to the playoffs. And really for the Nationals, that's where they face their most adversity, right then and there. Since sure they won those 2 out of 3 against the Marlins, but they had to play 11 games in 10 days. They won 10 of them. They won 8 in a row to finish the regular season. They got hot. And you think about the Nationals winning that wild card game. Yes, they face adversity in that wild card game. It's up to Soto, who gets it off Hader. They're 4 outs away from elimination. You think about that game 2, winning 2 games in Los Angeles. They won 2 out of 3 in Los Angeles. Basically getting blown out by the Dodgers in game 3. The Dodgers had all the momentum going into game 4. And they managed to score early against Scherzer. It could have been like that wild card game. But no, the Nationals came back. They fought back. In game 5, Buehler's in control. And even then, you try to give him an extra inning, and then all of a sudden, back-to-back home runs. Now it was their game. It became their game. And then when Kendrick that grand slam, I knew it was game over at that point on. So obviously, the Nationals have a lot of momentum. And so do the Cardinals, basically jumping out and destroying the Braves. So I think they both have momentum. But the Nationals might have a little bit more. It's in St. Louis. And if the Nationals can win game 1, knowing you have Scherzer and Strasburg, they can take complete control of the series. So I think whoever wins game 1, if the Cardinals win game 1, this gives them an extra edge. If the Nationals do, then I think they win the series. So they could potentially go up 3-0. I think this is a series that the Nationals might, based on starting pitching, looking at things like that, they could sweep. I could see that. I think it's possible they sweep. And again, things happen you don't expect. The Cardinals could sweep. That could happen. The Yankees could sweep the Astros. You don't know what happens in October baseball. But I think it's going to be a fairly close series. I think the Cardinals could definitely win 2 games in the series. Most likely, I think it would have to be game 1 and game 5. Since I think they're going to have a very hard time winning games 2 or 3. There's a good chance they might be facing a 3-1 deficit. Since the Nationals, granted, on paper, I think are the better team. Certainly starting pitching wise. Certainly by the way they played down the stretch. I mean, granted, the Nationals had their moments where, again, for most of September, from about Labor Day to about really that Cardinals series, they weren't winning enough games. I mean, you thought, can they catch the Braves? The Braves completely pulled away and completely ended that narrative. And you're wondering, we know the Braves are going to the playoffs, to the Nationals. Can the Nationals just finish? They did all this, and they have to ruin it now. I admit, I might have been having some of those thoughts, worst case scenario. But they didn't. They all went away. They clinched. They kept playing hard, even in that Cleveland series. And when you thought the Nationals were done, many people thought they were done by Memorial Day. I mean, granted, I was pretty darn frustrated when how they played against the Mets right around Memorial Day. That was frustrating. And then to now see them play that way, and then sure, that was frustrating. So, what do they have to play for? A National League pennant. Both of them do. How did the Cardinals win the series? How did they do it? I think, winning game 1 and managing to somehow win either, which if you win game 2, it's 2-0. That is a hard lead to overcome. Even if the Nationals are favored. But if they can somehow, Flaherty's Flaherty, they manage to beat Strasburg, even if it's just 1-0, then all of a sudden, they could potentially win the series. Now, granted, Game 6 and 7 is Scherzer and Strasburg. They used that routine to beat the Dodgers. So knowing when Strasburg or Scherzer starts a game, they're 3-0 against the Dodgers. The games they lost were started by Corbin and Sanchez. So if this continues, let's just say they lose game 1, Scherzer Strasburg, they get a win. So it's 2-1. Maybe they fall down 3-2. They can still win the series in 7, but I don't quite think it's going to be like that. I think the Nationals win the series in 6. I have the Nationals going to the World Series. And granted, people might say, oh, I'm being biased right now. But I picked them to lose against the Dodgers. I picked them to lose against the Dodgers, sure. I have my Nationals hat on. In fact, matter of fact, I'm wearing a Nationals long sleeve red shirt right now. I'm very excited for tonight's game. I am rooting for the Nationals. I want them to win the World Series. It's been made very clear on this video that I'm a Nationals fan. I'm not denying that. But the reason why I think they're going to win the series, I'm trying to explain this from a national or a neutral perspective. I just think they're the better team than the Cardinals. I knew they weren't the better team than the Dodgers. On paper, they weren't. But they managed to beat them. So sure, the Cardinals can win this series. But I just think the Nationals are the better team. They have a starting pitching advantage, a big one. That's why I think they win the series in 6. Nationals in 6. So, World Series matchup, Astros, Nationals, that is my prediction. That is who we're going to face. So in terms of coming back on the air, I don't know when I'll quite come back on. I think the main thing is I want to get on the air, I think maybe on Monday. Maybe after each team has played 2 series, so I can kind of get a good idea of what has happened so far and kind of who's playing well, who's not. And I think that's when I want to come back on. So I don't know. I think I've been on air. I don't even know. I think I know yesterday. I've probably been on the air 3 or 4 days in a row now. I've been on the air a lot, so I don't want to take up any more time. But in closing, Astros, Nationals, and the World Series. That's it. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.